Imagine sitting at your family dinner table, normal weeknight, your mom's famous pot roast on the plate, your wife pouring wine like it's just another Thursday, and then without warning your mother reaches across the table, her hand shaking, and slips you a folded piece of paper. No one else notices. She doesn't look at you. She just slides it into your palm like it's a secret message smuggled in prison. And when you glance up, stunned, your mom finally meets your eyes and whispers, barely audible, "Don't trust your wife." Right there. In front of everyone. While the potatoes are still steaming. That's how it started. That's the moment that cracked open the life I thought I understood. And by the end of this story you'll know exactly why she said it, and what it cost us. Hey, before we dive too far in, let me say this directly to you. If you've ever looked at someone you love and felt that tiny twinge of doubt, if you've ever second-guessed the version of reality someone else wants you to believe, stay with me. This isn't just a mystery. This is a mind game. A psychological unraveling that begins with a dinner note and ends with a secret so dark, it made me question everything, even my own sanity. I promise you the answer you came looking for? You're going to get it. But not all at once. This story unfolds layer by layer, and if you click away early you're going to miss the truth behind the one person I never thought I'd question. My wife. So lean in, stay close, and trust me when I say, the deeper we go, the more twisted it gets. Now, I know the internet is full of clickbait stories and half-baked confessions, but this one? This is different. It's not a ghost story. It's not some wild Reddit thread. This happened. To me. And when I tell you it wrecked my sense of reality, I mean it. Because what do you even do when your own mother, your ride or die, your childhood protector, looks you in the eye and tells you the person you sleep next to every night might be dangerous? It's one thing if you don't get along with your spouse. It's another if your mom's always been suspicious. But my mom loved my wife. Or, at least I thought she did. Let me back up and give you a little context because none of this will make sense without understanding what our family dynamic was like before the note. My name's Drew, I'm 34, live in Portland, Oregon. I work remote in cybersecurity, so yes, I'm paranoid by default, but that's also why this story hit so hard. My mom, Susan, raised me and my older sister by herself after Dad passed when I was 9. She's strong. Quiet. The kind of woman who holds her pain in her back like a stone. She doesn't interfere. She's never been one of those in-your-business moms. She's measured. Cautious. She thinks before she speaks. So when she finally speaks, it means something. And then there's my wife, Kayla. We've been together 6 years. Married for 4. Kayla is radiant. She lights up rooms. She's a marketing director at a tech firm downtown, and she's everything I'm not. Charming, outgoing, quick with a joke. People love her. My mom used to love her too. We'd do Sunday dinners once a month, rotate who hosted, and it always felt easy. Comfortable. Until recently when things started to feel off. Little things. You ever feel like someone's smile doesn't quite reach their eyes anymore? That's what it was like with my mom around Kayla these past few months. She'd still hug her. Still compliment her. But I started to notice it, this tiny shift. And I didn't say anything. Because what do you say? Hey mom, why do you hug my wife like you're scared of her? You don't. You brush it off. You keep the peace. Until last Thursday. We had dinner at our place. Just me, Kayla, mom, and my sister Megan. It was casual. Lasagna, garlic bread, bottle of red. The kind of night you don't even think about until it splits your life into before and after. We're halfway through eating, making small talk about Megan's new job and some neighborhood drama, when I feel my mom's hand brush mine under the table. She slides something folded into my palm. Her knuckles are white. Her eyes? Bloodshot. And then she whispers, "Don't trust your wife." No context. No explanation. Just those 4 words. It didn't feel like a joke. Not from her. My mom doesn't do drama. She doesn't do cryptic. So I excused myself. Went to the bathroom. Opened the note like it might explode. And what it said wasn't long. Just a few lines, scribbled in her handwriting, shaky but urgent. She is not who she says she is. Something is wrong. You have to leave the house tonight. Do not tell her I warned you. That was it. No signature. No proof. But it made the air around me thicken. It made my skin prickle like something invisible was watching me. And for the first time in my entire marriage, I felt scared to go back to the table. Like I was walking into a room with someone I didn't fully know. But I did go back. Because what else do you do? I walked out of that bathroom with the note stuffed in my pocket and sat back down across from Kayla. She smiled like nothing had happened. Clinked her wine glass against mine. Kept chatting about weekend plans and some dumb movie she wanted to stream. And the whole time I couldn't stop looking at her hands. Her eyes. The way she chewed. I started watching her like a stranger. You might be asking, did you confront her? I didn't. Not then. I had too many questions and not enough proof. I needed to think, observe. So I waited. I played it cool. Let the night wind down, walked my mom and sister to their car, and asked Mom softly, "What's going on?" She shook her head. "Not here," she said. "She listens." And that's when the chills hit. Because she wasn't talking about Kayla being nosy. She meant something else. She meant Kayla hears things she shouldn't. Maybe reads lips. Checks phones. Whatever it was, my mom wasn't just afraid of drama. She was afraid of surveillance. Of being overheard. And if you think that sounds paranoid, remember, I work in cybersecurity. I know what people can do. I know what's possible. But this wasn't coming from me. This was my mother. A woman who still uses sticky notes instead of apps because she doesn't trust technology. Telling me my own wife might be watching. And here's where the story tilts even harder. After they left, Kayla came up behind me in the kitchen. Hugged me. Whispered, "Everything okay?" And I swear to you, the way she said it, so gentle, so intuitive, it was like she knew what my mom had said. Or guessed. Or felt the shift in me. And I just nodded. What? Said, "Yeah, just tired." But inside something had snapped. I started noticing everything. The way Kayla's phone was always face down. The way she'd close her laptop when I walked in. The new locked drawer in her home office. The midnight grocery runs that didn't always come with bags. At first, I told myself I was being ridiculous, letting fear spiral. But the more I noticed, the more it felt real. And then something happened that sealed it. 2 days later, my mom disappeared. Gone. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her apartment was untouched. No sign of struggle. No note. Just gone. And the only person who seemed calm about it? Kayla. She said maybe Mom went to a spa, needed space, was having a senior moment. But my mom doesn't vanish. Not without a trace. Not without telling Megan at least. And that's when I knew I had to start digging. Quietly. Carefully. Like I was living with someone who might be dangerous. And here's the thing, I didn't want to believe it. I still don't. But I followed the trail. Pulled threads. Looked into things I wasn't supposed to see. And what I found changed everything. I'll take you through every step, what I uncovered, who else might be involved, and how a single dinner turned into the unraveling of my entire reality. But if you're still with me right now, I need you to commit to one thing. Don't look away. Don't skip ahead. Because this story builds. The truth is buried deep, and it only makes sense when you see how the pieces connect. I promise everything I'm about to show you ties back to that one moment, my mom's note, that whispered warning, and what it revealed about the woman I thought I knew better than anyone else. And it starts the night I found a locked file on Kayla's computer. A file labeled, "For Drew, if you ever find out." What was in it? You'll find out in the next part. But just know this, whatever you're imagining. It's worse. I didn't open the file that night. I stared at the name, "For Drew, if you ever find out," and felt a wave of nausea like someone had punched me behind the eyes. It sat there on her desktop like a confession waiting to detonate, but something in me hesitated. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was denial. Or maybe I already knew that once I opened that file, there'd be no coming back. So instead, I closed the laptop and spent the next 3 hours pacing our hallway like a prisoner waiting for sunrise. Kayla was asleep in our bed by then, or at least pretending to be, and I kept hearing phantom creaks from the floorboards, like she was standing behind the door listening. Watching. I tell myself it's just paranoia, but here's the thing, they always say trust your gut, right? That voice that whispers when something's not quite right? Mine was screaming. The next morning I acted normal. I brewed coffee, kissed her on the temple, asked about her day. She smiled like usual, told me she was running late for a team meeting, and left the house with her phone already to her ear. I watched from the window until her car turned the corner. Then I grabbed her laptop again. The file was still there, but now it was password protected. Not a standard zip lock or encryption. It was hidden behind a shadow folder, buried under decoy PDFs. The kind of thing you only do if you don't want it found. That's when it really hit me. This wasn't some sentimental letter or romantic video file. It was something darker. Something I wasn't meant to see. And it made me wonder, how long had she been planning for me to find it? Or worse, how long had she been expecting me to find something? To make sense of any of this, I had to start from the beginning. Not just the dinner. Not just the note. But the weeks leading up to it. Because the more I thought about it, the more I realized that something had shifted in our lives quietly, almost invisibly, about 2 months ago. Around the time Kayla started sleeping less. I'd catch her sitting up in bed at 3 a.m., staring at the wall, eyes open but distant. I chalked it up to work stress. Her company was going through a round of silent layoffs, and Kayla had been working overtime to prove her worth. Or so she said. But now, with everything I know, I wonder if that's when it all started. There was also that weird situation with our neighbor, Carl. Middle-aged guy, divorced, lives across the street with his dog, always friendly in that vaguely suspicious way. A couple months ago, I caught him talking to Kayla in our driveway. Nothing unusual, just polite small talk. But when he saw me coming, he practically bolted. Later, when I asked Kayla about it, she brushed it off. Said he was just complimenting her on our landscaping. But Carl started acting different after that. Like he was avoiding eye contact. Like he'd seen something and didn't know whether to say anything. I started to wonder if maybe he wasn't just being neighborly. Maybe he knew something about Kayla that I didn't. Or maybe he was involved. I mean, I know how it sounds, but once your mom disappears and your wife has secret files named for the day you find out, you start to see shadows where light used to be. And then there's Megan, my sister. She's the logical one. Former med student turned paramedic. Grounded. Smart. Doesn't believe in gut feelings, only evidence. But when I finally told her what Mom said at dinner and that I hadn't heard from her since, Megan went pale. Like she already suspected something, but didn't want to be the one to say it first. She started asking questions. Had I noticed any bruises on Mom? Did she seem nervous around Kayla? Had there been any financial stuff? Missing cards, strange transfers? And that's when I remembered something else. A week before the dinner, Mom had called me in the middle of the day. Totally out of the blue. She asked if I could help her move some files from her old apartment to a storage unit. Said she was downsizing. But when I offered to come by that weekend, she backpedaled. Said it was handled. That she'd already asked someone else. She wouldn't say who. At the time I assumed maybe Megan. No, I don't know. What if it wasn't Megan? What if it was Kayla? Another piece fell into place when I checked our home security footage. We've got Nest cams on the porch and inside the hallway, just basic coverage, nothing fancy. But the week Mom went missing, the footage for 3 nights was completely wiped. No data. Just black screens. I didn't even notice at first because who checks their own security footage unless something happens? But now I had a reason to look. And the logs? They didn't show a system failure. They showed manual deletion, from inside our network. I hadn't done it. No one else had access. Unless you count Kayla. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. So I did what I always do when things feel out of control. I ran background checks. I've done it 100 times for work. But this time it wasn't some anonymous hacker I was looking into. It was my wife. And the first thing I found was a sealed court document from 2012 under a different name, Kayla R. Weston. The middle initial didn't match her current name, and the record had been sealed by court order. No charges, no summary, just a note. Request granted. All documents sealed due to safety risk. Safety risk. That phrase just echoed in my head. I called in a few favors, reached out to a friend who used to work for a legal data firm, and they ran a deeper search. And what he came back with chilled me. He found a birth certificate issued in Missouri under Kayla Weston. Same birth date. Same town she always claimed. But the parents' names didn't match the ones she gave me when we first met. Different names entirely. Different identities. Which meant either she was adopted and hiding it, or she changed her identity deliberately. And if she changed it, why? What was she hiding from? Or worse, asterisk who asterisk? The problem was, for every new lead I found, a dead end appeared right behind it. There were just enough gaps to raise suspicion, but not enough to pin anything down. It was like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces chewed up. I didn't want to believe Kayla was involved in anything dangerous. But I also couldn't ignore that my mom was gone, the note was real, and there was a file on Kayla's computer that had my name on it, waiting for the day I found out. Found out what though? Then came the night I followed her. She said she was going to a work dinner, some casual client meet-up at a bar downtown. I didn't say anything. I waited 10 minutes, then got in my car and tailed her. She didn't go downtown. She didn't go to a bar. She drove 20 minutes to a rundown strip mall on the outskirts of town. Parked. Waited. No one met her. She just sat in the car for nearly an hour, engine running, occasionally checking her phone. Then she got out, went into a closed storefront, dark, no signage, boarded windows. She was inside for 13 minutes. When she came out, she was carrying nothing. But her face looked like she'd just seen a ghost. Pale, tight-lipped, eyes glassy. And she drove home like nothing had happened. Came in and kissed me like always. Said the dinner went well. That was when I realized I wasn't just watching her. She was watching me, because the next morning she asked if I'd slept okay. Asked if I'd been out at all. And her tone, it was casual but not quite. Like she was testing me. Seeing if I'd lie. That's when I started to think this wasn't just about secrets. It was about control. Kayla had always been good at reading people. Manipulating a room. But now I wondered if that gift wasn't just social intelligence. Maybe it was strategic. Calculated. Maybe she wasn't just trying to protect a secret. Maybe she was protecting herself from something far worse. Or maybe she was setting me up. I know how that sounds. But ask yourself this: if your spouse had a secret identity, if your mother vanished, if files were deleted and cameras wiped, would you still call it coincidence? Or would you start to wonder who the person sleeping next to you really is? And we haven't even gotten to the part where I found the second note. Yes, there was a second note. But it wasn't from my mom. It was from someone else. Someone I hadn't seen in almost 10 years. And it was slipped under my windshield the next morning. So yeah, buckle in. Because this story is just getting started. That second note, found under my windshield, changed everything. I didn't even notice it until I got into my car to head to the grocery store. It was folded neatly, tucked under the wiper blade, perfectly square like someone had taken their time. I had parked in our driveway the night before, and we live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, not the kind of place where things like this happen. At first I thought it might be a flyer or a neighbor's kid pulling a prank. But as soon as I opened it, my breath caught. The handwriting wasn't my mom's, it was Messier heavier, but the message sent the same chill down my spine. You're not safe either. Stop digging before she turns on you too. No signature. No date. No explanation. Just those words. It wasn't a joke. The wording was too specific, too pointed. And it confirmed what I'd started to fear deep down, that someone knew I was investigating. That I wasn't just playing detective in the background anymore. I had crossed a line, and now whoever was behind this didn't want me looking further. But here's the thing, I couldn't stop now. Because this wasn't just about Kayla anymore. This was bigger. Deeper. Maybe even connected to whatever happened in Kayla's sealed past. But finding out meant taking a risk. And not just any risk. It meant gambling with the possibility that the person closest to me might be dangerous. Still, I had to push forward. So I decided to copy the contents of Kayla's laptop while she was out one afternoon. I figured if I could break into that hidden file, or at least take a digital copy to analyze later, I might find real answers. I plugged in an external hard drive, got through her password using a method I'll leave vague for legal reasons, and began the transfer. It was working. Slowly, but it was working. The folder with the locked file, the decoy PDFs, the browsing history, it was all there, inching its way onto my drive. And then, just as it hit 94%, the screen flickered and went black. The laptop shut down. Just died. No error message, no overheating. I tried restarting it. Nothing. It was like someone had installed a kill switch. I checked the power. The battery. Tried safe mode. Still nothing. The hard drive wasn't corrupted. It was wiped. Every file. Every trace of what I'd been copying. Gone. Like it never existed. And worst of all, my own external drive? Blank. No transfer record. No temp files. It had all vanished in a matter of seconds. I don't know how. But I know why. Because someone didn't want me seeing what was inside that folder. And whoever set it up, they were prepared for this. It wasn't just protected. It was booby-trapped. And that's when I remembered the name of a guy I hadn't talked to in years, Tony Carr. He and I used to work together back when I was freelancing in corporate digital forensics. He got booted from the company for some shady surveillance work, but he was brilliant. Sketchy but brilliant. The kind of guy who could break open an encrypted file blindfolded. I figured he might be able to help me recover the data, or at least tell me what kind of protection Kayla had used. I tracked him down on an encrypted chat app we both used back in the day and messaged him, keeping it vague. Just said I had a drive that got wiped in the middle of a transfer and needed his eyes on it. He agreed to meet up later that week. But he never showed. I waited outside a coffee shop for almost 2 hours. Called his burner twice. Texted him. No answer. Then I checked the news the next morning and saw a report buried in the local section. Body found in a hotel room across town. Unidentified male. Foul play suspected. I don't know for sure if it was Tony. The article didn't give a name. But I tried messaging him again. No reply. His account was gone. Deleted. Not just inactive, wiped. Like he'd never existed on that server. And suddenly the walls felt closer than ever. I wasn't just getting stonewalled. I was being watched. And I couldn't be sure by who. Megan was the only person I could trust now, or at least I thought so. I told her everything, About the note on my car, the failed data transfer, Tony. She didn't say much. Just listened, wide-eyed and pale. Then she did something that surprised me. She pulled out her phone and said, "There's something you need to see." She opened her photo app, scrolled a bit and handed it to me. It was a picture. A surveillance still, grainy but clear enough. It showed Mom, our mom, standing outside a building I didn't recognize. She looked nervous, alone, holding a manila folder. And standing just a few feet away from her, almost in shadow, was Kayla. It was dated 3 weeks before Mom disappeared. When I asked Megan where she got it, she hesitated. Said she didn't want to involve me unless she was sure something was really wrong. That a friend had sent it to her. She wouldn't say who. Just said it came from someone she used to know in law enforcement. But the moment she said it, I saw something in her face. A flicker of guilt. A fear. And I started to wonder, was Megan protecting me, or protecting herself? She claimed she didn't know about the meeting between Mom and Kayla. But why hold on to a photo like that and not tell me until now? Why wait until I was desperate? I tried to press her. Asked if she knew anything about Mom's sealed documents or if she had ever heard of Kayla's other identity. Megan shut down. Said I was spiraling. That I needed sleep. That I was letting my imagination twist everything. But her voice was shaky. She knew more than she was saying. And that made her one more person I couldn't fully trust. Later that night, I decided to take a drive to the building in the surveillance photo. It wasn't hard to locate once I zoomed in on a street sign in the corner of the frame. It turned out to be an old storage facility just outside the city limits. One of those 24-hour places with keypad entry and flickering lights. I parked nearby, waited until after midnight and walked the perimeter. Most of the units were empty, dust-covered, quiet. But one had a motion sensor light still triggered. Fresh footprints in the gravel. And on the edge of the door, deep scratches in the paint like someone had pried it open. The unit was locked, but someone had tampered with it. I could see the marks. And when I leaned in to listen, just out of instinct, I swear I heard something shift inside. Like metal against metal. I didn't have a key. I didn't want to break in. But I took a picture of the number. Called it in as an anonymous tip to the local police, pretending to be a concerned neighbor. Said I saw someone breaking in. Figured maybe they'd check it out, maybe they'd find something. Or maybe I was just buying time. The next morning, that storage facility burned to the ground. Total loss. Electrical fire, according to the report. No injuries. No suspects. Just gone. Like someone knew I was onto it. And whatever had been stored inside. Turned to ash. And that brings me back to the note. The first one. The one my mom gave me. I've read it 100 times now. Memorized every word. And each time I find something new in the way she wrote it. But what I didn't notice until just this morning, until I really looked, was the faint imprint on the back. Like something had been written above it on the same pad. A partial address. Faded, incomplete. But it's there. Barely visible. Like a breadcrumb she left on purpose. Or a last clue she hoped I'd find. And that's where I'm going next. But there's one thing I haven't told you. One thing I've been holding back. Because just last night, while going through one of Mom's old jewelry boxes Megan dropped off at my place, to help me feel close to her, I found something else. A photograph. Not of my mom. Not of Kayla. But of the two of them. Together. Smiling. In front of a building that doesn't exist anymore. And written on the back just 5 chilling words. She lied to both of us. Now ask yourself, who was the real target? The photo was still in my hand when my phone buzzed, 3 short vibrations back to back. A text from Megan. I hadn't heard from her since the day she showed me the surveillance image, and I honestly didn't expect to. But the message she sent made my pulse spike. Asterisk, check your email. Something came in. I didn't send it. Asterisk, that was all it said. No context. No follow-up. Just that. I raced to my computer and pulled up my inbox. There it was, one unread message, no subject line, no sender name. Just an encrypted attachment and a timestamp from the middle of the night. At first, I hesitated. Every part of me was screaming to be careful, to isolate the file, scan for malware, follow protocol. But curiosity had already overtaken caution. I opened it anyway. It was a video. Grainy. Shaky. Captured from a phone camera held low like someone was trying not to be seen. The footage opened on a dark, wooded trail, somewhere rural. The person filming was breathing heavily, stumbling, whispering something inaudible under their breath. And then, just before the video cut out, they turned the camera briefly to their face, and my blood ran cold. It was Megan. Her face scratched, eyes wide, lit only by the phone's glow. She looked terrified. Behind her, barely visible in the trees, a figure. Not clearly enough to identify but tall. So, watching. The video ended there, abrupt and chilling, and I felt like the floor beneath me had dropped away. Megan hadn't just received a threat. She was being hunted. Or at least she thought she was. I called her immediately. No answer. Straight to voicemail. I tried again, then texted. Nothing. I grabbed my keys, ready to drive to her apartment, but halfway down the stairs I stopped myself. What if this was a trap? What if someone had sent that video not to warn me, but to lure me into something? Or worse, to make me doubt the one person I still had any shred of trust in? But then another thought slammed into me like a freight train. What if it wasn't Megan who sent that video at all? What if she was the one being used now the same way I had been? On a hunch, I pulled up the video again, this time running it through some software I use at work for forensic analysis. Checking metadata, GPS tags, device info. Most of it was stripped, but one small detail hadn't been erased. The phone model. Not Megan's. It matched Kayla's. Same exact device ID. And just like that, the ground shifted again. Either Kayla had Megan's phone, or Megan was using Kayla's. Which meant one of them had been lying to me this whole time. Or maybe both. I didn't know what to believe anymore. The people I thought were on my side were starting to blur together, their motives twisting like a funhouse mirror. It wasn't just about who was lying, it was about who was orchestrating the lies. But I didn't have time to untangle it all because a new problem showed up on my doorstep. Literally. Late that afternoon, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was a flash drive and a single sheet of paper. The note said, asterisk, you missed something. This isn't just about her. Asterisk, that was it. But the handwriting matched the one from the windshield note, the one that warned me to stop digging. And now they were helping me? What? I plugged the flash drive into a sandbox system I keep for test environments, expecting maybe another corrupted file or dead end. But it opened easily. Inside were two files. One was a PDF, medical records. My mom's. The other was a scanned page from what looked like an old psychiatric evaluation. Not hers. Kayla's. The documents painted a story I never expected. According to the records, my mom had checked herself into a private clinic last year for what was labeled acute stress response, but the notes were heavily redacted. There were mentions of a young woman visiting frequently. No name. Just KW, but what really stopped me cold was the psychiatric record, Kayla's file. It had a date, July 2013. And it referenced something I'd never heard her mention once. A sister. Not just any sister, a twin. Deceased. The file said Kayla had experienced dissociative symptoms, paranoia, recurring nightmares, and had been under observation for several months following a family tragedy. But nowhere, not once in 6 years of marriage, had she ever mentioned a sister. Let alone a twin. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, trying to make sense of it all. Was this the root of everything? A past trauma Kayla never spoke about? Something she buried so deep it twisted her identity into something unrecognizable? And was my mom part of it? Had she discovered something about Kayla's past that triggered her warning? The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The secrecy. The sealed records. The weird familiarity in that photo of the two of them together. Maybe they had met before. Maybe they knew each other long before I met Kayla. But then the real question emerged, if they had a shared history, why lie? There was only one other person who might know something about that photo, the man my mom was seen with in the image, standing just a few feet behind her, half in shadow. I hadn't been able to make out his face before, but now, with new eyes, I realized he looked familiar. Like someone I had met before. Not recently, years ago. Back when I first started dating Kayla. He'd shown up at a dinner once. Said he was a family friend. Older guy, wore a tweed jacket in July, barely spoke but watched everything. I remembered Kayla brushing it off when I asked who he was. Uncle Greg, she said. Not really an uncle. But something about him unsettled me even then. I ran a facial comparison through an online tool using the enhanced version of the surveillance image. The results came back almost instantly. The man's name wasn't Greg. It was William Mercer. Retired therapist. Specialized in identity trauma, grief processing, and, most interesting of all, court-mandated evaluations tied to sealed juvenile records. The same type Kayla had. Mercer had disappeared from public records 3 years ago. His license expired. No contact since. And the last known address on file? Same city where that storage unit burned to the ground. So now I'm stuck with two possibilities. Either this man knew everything and vanished to protect it, or someone made sure he never talked. And just when I thought I was ready to start pulling the threads apart again, my phone buzzed. This time a voicemail. From an unknown number. No caller ID. I played it on speaker, holding my breath. It was my mother. Her voice was shaky. Faint. Like she was speaking through a bad connection. But it was her. No doubt in my mind. She said one sentence before the line went dead. Drew, don't trust your sister. And now everything is sideways. Because if Megan's been hiding something too, then I'm not just uncovering Kayla's past. I might be exposing my own family's lies too. It happened that same night. I was lying in bed, staring up at the ceiling, the voice of my mother still echoing in my ears. Don't trust your sister. I'd replayed the voicemail at least 30 times, hoping for background noise, a clue, a distortion that might suggest where she was calling from. Nothing. Just static after the sentence, then silence. It was after midnight now, but I couldn't sleep. My mind wouldn't stop spinning with everything I'd learned, everything I thought I knew. That photo. The hidden twin. Kayla's redacted psych history. My mom's disappearance. Megan's sudden involvement. And now, apparently, a sister I wasn't supposed to trust. I hadn't responded to Megan since the last message. Part of me still believed she was on my side, but another part, the same gut instinct that had been screaming louder every day, was telling me I'd made a mistake somewhere. A big one. One I couldn't take back. That's when I heard the noise. A soft thump outside the bedroom window. Our second-floor window. At first I froze, assuming it was just a branch or maybe the wind knocking something loose. But then I heard it again, closer, heavier. Not natural. I slipped out of bed and moved to the side slowly, keeping my back to the wall, not letting my shadow fall across the window. I pulled the curtain back just enough to see, and there it was. A silhouette. On the roof over the porch, crouched low, facing me. A man. No mask, no attempt to hide. Just staring as if waiting for me to notice. When our eyes met through the glass, he tilted his head ever so slightly, then disappeared, dropping out of view like he'd never been there. I bolted out of the bedroom, phone in hand, heart in my throat. By the time I got outside, the front lawn was empty. Nothing but dew on the grass and the lingering scent of something sharp, chemical, like burned plastic. I scanned the yard, the trees, the street. Dead quiet. Too quiet. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, there was nothing to report. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. No cameras on that side of the house. Just me standing there barefoot on the porch, trying to explain to two officers with tired eyes that I was being watched by someone who knew how to vanish. They left an hour later, after filing a report they clearly didn't believe in. But something had changed in me. I could feel it. The lines between real and imagined were beginning to blur, and I couldn't tell if it was because the situation was escalating, or because someone wanted me to feel like I was losing my grip. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I stayed up checking locks, windows, reviewing old photos, digging into every scrap of metadata I had from the video and the flash drive. Around 4 a.m., I found something buried in the video's audio track. Background interference, subtle but rhythmic. I ran a frequency analysis and isolated it. Morse code. I couldn't believe it at first, but the pattern was too deliberate. Someone embedded a message. I translated it. It said, "You've already met her." That was it. No name. No clue who her was. Kayla? Megan? My mom's twin, if such a person even existed? But that was when I heard my phone buzz again. Another voicemail. From Megan. Only this time it wasn't her voice. It was a man. Come. Cold. His tone flat like he was reading from a script written in stone. Stop digging. One more step and she's gone. This is your last warning. That was it. No mention of who she was. My mom? Kayla? Megan? The weight of it dropped on me like lead. I stood there in my hallway, phone still pressed to my ear, feeling my body go completely numb. This wasn't paranoia anymore. This wasn't a game. This was real. Someone was watching. Listening. Controlling every move I made. And they were done playing nice. The next day confirmed everything I feared. Megan was gone. Her apartment was empty, door unlocked, blinds drawn. Her car still in the lot. No sign of struggle, no forced entry, but her phone was on the kitchen counter with a single sticky note on the screen. 2 words, "I'm sorry." That was it. No goodbye. No clue where she went or if she even left willingly. I contacted the building manager, but they hadn't seen her in days. Police took another report, but they weren't interested. Adult woman, they said. No signs of foul play. But I knew better. This wasn't a coincidence. This was calculated. Precise. Someone had made her disappear. And then there was the dream. That same night, after 48 hours awake, I finally passed out on the couch. It wasn't sleep, it was collapse. And in that haze, I saw something that jolted me back awake like a jolt to the heart. My mom, standing in a hallway I didn't recognize, holding a locket I'd never seen. She whispered something, but I couldn't hear it. Behind her, a flickering light. A man's shadow. And something scratched on the wall behind them. A word. Over and over. Asterisk return. Asterisk. I woke up with my heart racing and hands shaking, only to find something impossible on my lap. A small, cold locket. Real. And inside it, a picture of Kayla and Megan, as children, standing together, smiling, like sisters, which means one thing. Someone's been lying about everything from the beginning, and whoever they are, they're not finished with me yet. It all came crashing down the day I got a call from an unknown number just after noon, when the sun was too bright to be harboring secrets, but somehow the voice on the other end made the world feel darker than midnight. It wasn't a threat or a plea for help, at least not at first. The voice was calm, almost familiar, and when it spoke, it shattered everything I thought I knew about Kayla, Megan, my mom, and even myself. Drew, it said quietly, like I was the only person in the universe who could hear it, you've been chasing shadows. The truth isn't what you think it is. You've been looking in the wrong places for the wrong people. My hands gripped the phone tighter, the cold sweat starting to drip down my back. Who is this? I demanded, but the line went dead before I could get an answer. Then came the message that followed. A package slipped under my door an hour later, containing a single folder filled with documents and photos that rewrote the entire story I'd been piecing together. There were letters between my mom and Kayla, written years ago but hidden deep in a box labeled, "Do not open until after." In those letters, my mom confessed something she never told me. Kayla wasn't just her daughter-in-law or even a troubled woman with a hidden past. Kayla was her biological daughter, the one she had given up for adoption as a teenager to protect her from a dangerous family situation nobody ever talked about. Megan wasn't my sister either. She was Kayla's half-sister from another mother, and the connection between them was far more tangled than bloodlines. The woman I called Mom, all my life wasn't just missing. She had disappeared to protect all of us from a secret so dark it could ruin everything. That moment shattered my sense of reality. All the red flags I'd seen, the secrecy, the hidden files, the warnings, weren't signs of deception but desperate attempts to keep a fractured family safe from an unknown threat. The man in the surveillance photo, William Mercer, wasn't an enemy but a protector, working quietly to shield Kayla and my mom from the past they'd been running from. The mysterious messages weren't meant to scare me away, they were clues, coded warnings about something deeper and more dangerous lurking beneath the surface. Suddenly, every suspicion I had about Megan, Kayla, even myself, felt like a lie I'd told to protect my own sanity. I stared at the locket again, the one with Kayla and Megan's childhood photo, and realized I'd missed the most crucial detail. The engraving on the back wasn't just a name or date, but coordinates. Coordinates that led to a place none of us had ever mentioned, a remote cabin miles from town. And if the past was still hunting us, that cabin might be the key to everything. But there was one final twist that made my blood run cold. Inside the folder, hidden in a sealed envelope marked "For Drew Only," was a letter from my mother. Not a warning this time, but a confession. "If you're reading this," she wrote, "know that the danger isn't over. Trust no one completely, not even those you love. Because sometimes the biggest threats come from within." Now everything was different. The mystery wasn't about uncovering who was lying or who had vanished. It was about facing a family fractured by secrets and trying to find out who was still standing when the dust settled. And more than that, I had to ask myself, in a web of lies and hidden truths, who could I really trust? The weight of that letter crushed me like a tidal wave, Mom's words echoing in my mind, warning me to trust no one, not even the people I'd spent years loving and relying on. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare where every face I saw could be hiding a knife behind their back, every whispered conversation could be a setup, every smile a mask. That night, when I finally confronted Kayla, everything shattered. I asked her directly, what was her real connection to Mom? Why had she lied about her past? Her eyes flickered with something I couldn't place. Sorrow, guilt, fear? She didn't deny the truth. Instead, she dropped a bomb that made my world spin faster than I thought possible. She said that Mom had begged her not to say anything, that the past wasn't just dark, it was dangerous, and bringing it to light could put all of us in serious harm's way. She claimed she was protecting me, protecting Megan, protecting me from a truth that could destroy the fragile peace we had left. But then came the hardest part. Kayla asked me to stop digging. Not for her sake but for mine. For our family's safety. It was the first time I saw her not as my wife, but as someone caught between love and fear, between truth and silence. But I couldn't stop. How could I? The missing pieces screamed in my head every time I tried to sleep, every time I saw Megan's empty apartment, every time my mother's voice haunted my phone. I wanted to believe Kayla, but then the impossible ultimatum arrived. A message slid under my door one morning, plain white envelope with no return address. Inside a simple note, asterisk, walk away now. Or lose everything. Asterisk, no signature, no name. Just that chilling warning. And right after the threats escalated, my car was keyed, my phone tapped, strange cars circling the block at night. Friends stopped returning calls. The only people who'd been there for me suddenly distant, guarded. Megan's disappearance wasn't random. Someone wanted me scared, isolated, silenced. And if I continued down this path, that someone promised I'd pay the ultimate price. But there was no going back. I was caught between protecting the family I loved and uncovering a truth that felt like it would tear me apart. I wrestled with the choice. Trust Kayla's plea for safety or risk everything to expose what my mom had hidden. The line between loyalty and survival blurred with every heartbeat, and the question burned hotter than any fear. How far was I willing to go before the truth destroyed the people I was trying to save? Just when I thought I had a handle on the nightmare I was living, everything exploded into chaos faster than I could process. The conspiracy I'd been chasing wasn't confined to a broken family or a handful of secrets. It was a sprawling, tangled web reaching far beyond anything I imagined. One night, while scouring through old emails and messages on a backup hard drive I'd managed to salvage from Kayla's laptop, I stumbled upon a series of encrypted chats. Not just between Kayla and Mom, but involving people I'd trusted without question. Friends, colleagues, even people I considered family. The conversations were cold, clinical, and chilling, discussing plans to cover tracks, manipulate evidence, and silence anyone who threatened to expose the truth. I realized I wasn't just up against shadows, I was fighting a network of people with influence, resources, and an agenda that went deeper than I ever thought. Then came the blow I wasn't ready for. Megan wasn't missing because she was scared or running away. I found proof, a location ping from her phone that placed her in a secure facility miles from the city. When I confronted Kayla, hoping for answers or maybe even mercy, she broke down and admitted something that shattered every trust one had left. Megan was part of it. Not just a pawn, but a willing participant in the cover-up. Her disappearance wasn't to protect her, it was to keep her quiet. The betrayal stung like a knife, twisting deep in my gut. How could the person I'd called my sister be working against me? How long had she been feeding information, steering suspicion, and playing both sides? My entire reality crumbled in an instant. Suddenly, I was alone, surrounded by people who wore masks, whose smiles hid agendas, and whose alliances shifted like quicksand. My phone buzzed non-stop with cryptic warnings, the walls of my apartment felt thinner every day, and I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on me 24/7. I realized the danger wasn't just about uncovering the past, it was about survival in a game where the stakes were life and death. Kayla's whispered pleas to stop digging weren't just about protecting family, they were about keeping me alive. But even as I wrestled with the weight of betrayal and the scale of the conspiracy, one truth was clear. The closer I got to the center, the darker it became, and the less I could trust anyone, even the woman I once vowed to love forever. The moment I had been dreading and chasing came crashing down on me like a freight train the night I finally confronted Kayla in the abandoned warehouse on the edge of town, the same place the documents had led me to, the coordinates etched on that locket pulsing in my pocket like a warning I couldn't ignore. The air was thick with cold, dust motes hanging like ghosts in the moonlight that spilled through cracked windows. Every step I took echoed in the cavernous space, the silence pressing against me heavier than any threat. Kayla was waiting, her face a mask of exhaustion and something raw, regret, maybe? Or maybe it was resignation. I demanded answers, the voice I barely recognized trembling with a mixture of fury and desperation. What? Why all the lies, the secrets, the pain? Who are you really? She looked at me, eyes glistening, and for the first time the barriers between us cracked. She told me the truth, a story that twisted everything on its head, unraveling the tangled mess of identities and betrayals that had haunted me. Kayla wasn't just hiding a past, she was running from a shadow deeper than anyone could imagine, a clandestine organization that had been manipulating our lives for years, targeting my mother and her family for reasons tied to something bigger, something political, dangerous, and buried under layers of corruption and silence. My mom had uncovered secrets about this group, secrets that could destroy powerful people, which is why she disappeared, why Megan had vanished, why I was being hunted. Kayla revealed that Megan had been working undercover not to betray us but to protect us, and that the threats, the warnings, they came from a place of love twisted by fear. Before I could process any of it, the warehouse doors slammed shut, plunging us into darkness. The flicker of a flashlight cut through the gloom and silhouettes appeared, men in suits, faces cold and unreadable. The organization wasn't done with us, not by a long shot. In that moment, the world narrowed down to survival, to trust, to the choice between surrender and fight. Kayla handed me a flash drive, the final piece of evidence, the proof that could bring the whole conspiracy to light. But there was a catch. One of the men stepped forward, and as he removed his mask, I recognized the face, Megan. She wasn't missing. She was leading this. The betrayal wasn't what I expected. Megan had been playing both sides, weaving her own web of deception. The flash drive was a trap designed to draw me in and silence me forever. The truth slammed into me like a punch to the gut. The person I'd trusted most was the architect of my nightmare. In that suffocating darkness, surrounded by lies and broken trust, I realized the fight wasn't just for the truth, it was for my very life. And the final twist? As Megan smiled coldly, she whispered, "You never really knew your family, Drew. But soon everyone will." In the aftermath of that night, as dawn broke over a city still draped in shadows, I found myself standing alone amid the ruins of everything I thought I knew, trust shattered, family fractured, and a truth too heavy to carry without feeling the weight in every breath. Megan's betrayal cut deeper than I ever imagined possible, but what stunned me more was the twisted loyalty behind it. Her desperate attempt to protect us all from a darkness that stretched far beyond our lives, a web woven with lies, secrets, and sacrifices made in the name of survival. The flash drive I thought would bring justice turned into a mirror reflecting the cost of uncovering too much too fast. Yet, somehow, the pieces that remained, the letters, the hidden files, the moments of raw honesty from Kayla, became a fragile lifeline tethering me to a hope that even in brokenness, there can be healing. I left the warehouse that morning with nothing but a heavy heart and a mind swirling with questions that might never be answered. Kayla vanished into the shadows, her fate uncertain, and Megan was nowhere to be found, a ghost slipping through the cracks of a story that refused to end neatly. My mother's warning echoed still, trust no one completely, and so I carry that lesson forward, wary yet wiser, understanding that truth is never black and white but painted in the gray spaces of human frailty and strength. I returned home to an empty house that felt both familiar and foreign, surrounded by memories both comforting and haunting, knowing that peace isn't always about closure but the courage to live with uncertainty. And maybe that's the real mystery, the one that lingers long after the last secret is revealed and the final truth laid bare. How do we reconcile the people we love with the shadows they keep, the lies they tell, and the sacrifices they make? As I sit here now, looking at the locket resting on my desk, its engraving faded but still meaningful, I realize some stories don't have neat endings. They stay with us, shaping who we are, challenging what we believe, and reminding us that sometimes, the greatest battles are fought within. So if you're watching this, wondering what you'd do if faced with the same impossible choices, ask yourself, not just who you trust but what you're willing to live with when trust is broken. Because in the end, that might be the hardest truth of all.